have you ever missed out on a knife before because your perceived value of it was that it wasn't worth that much and it turns out that it was? And then maybe you regretted it later? How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And if you answered yes to that question, go ahead, smash the like button, leave a comment down below, and let me know what knife did you miss out on based on your preconceived notions of value. This video is actually meant for those who are new to knife collecting, because whether you're just getting started because someone gifted you a knife and the rabbit hole is calling your name, or because maybe you've always liked knives and for some reason you've recently started seeing designs that just blew your socks off and you're ready to start collecting. No matter what the reason might be, I've been there, I've done that, and I'm not saying that I am a huge professional when it comes to knife collecting, or that my collection is worth the most money, or that I've learned everything, because every time I think I've got it figured out, I learn something new, but that's part of collecting knives. So today I'm going to be giving you the 5 don'ts, the 5 biggest mistakes you can make as you start your journey knife collecting. Let's start off with number 5. Number 5, do not base a knife's value solely on its material composition. Let me give you an example. This is a Spyderco Sharpen, G10 handle scales, L-Max steel, stamped steel pocket clip, steel liners. This knife is a Blade Ops exclusive, and when they're available, go anywhere in the realm of $280 to $350 brand new or mint condition. Here's another knife, also has G10 handle scales, 14C28N. It's got a deployment hole, stamped metal pocket clip, steel liners, and this one goes for under $50. You're looking more at the $30 price range. So when you're comparing those two knives, they look oddly similar, don't they? Let's take a closer look. So why does one cost almost $300 to almost $400 and the other one costs less than $50? Is one superior to the other? Is it all in the fact that this one has L-Max steel and this one has 14C28N? There are other factors involved. Things that can play a difference is manufacturing quality, the amount of availability. This knife right here is a petrified fish PF929, and while it's an excellent knife, it is far more readily available than something like this Blade Ops exclusive Sharpen. Yes, the steel does play a role in its price factor, but even the regular Sharpen with S30V goes for well over $200, and they sell out. And so a mistake that you could make as a new person getting into knife collecting is seeing one of these available and being like,
nah, I'm just gonna pass because I think that knife's overpriced.
The problem is that as you get more experience and as you start learning about the design language, the exclusivity of knives definitely plays a role, as well as the design language and where they're built and manufactured. This knife is made in China, and I'm not saying anything about the fact that it's made in China has something to do with its quality. There is a lot of really premium knives made in China. However, the manufacturing cost to make this knife in China is a hell of a lot less than the manufacturing cost to make this in Golden, Colorado. Those things need to be brought into account. Also, Spyderco is known for some of the best tolerances and the most solid manufacturing that money can buy when it comes to a knife. They're very consistent in their heat treat. They often have top numbers when it comes to heat treat. And if you're new to knife collecting, look up Rockwell hardness and what that means for different knife steels. You might just save yourself a lot of pain and anguish down the road, because guess what? It's more than just the knife steel composition that makes L-Max a very, very good knife for edge retention. For example, if this had a heat treat of 58, a composition of 14C28N at 62 would have far better edge retention. Number 4, don't buy clones unless you're seriously intending to buy a clone. This looks like a microtech stitch. It's got the logo, it's got the shape, it looks extremely similar, and to the untrained eye, it could be a microtech stitch. Well, what's the difference, right? Isn't it just that Microtech is this greedy knife company that just wants to overprice everything so they can inflate their profit margins? There is a lot of quality difference between a clone like this one and the real deal. For example, the real deal is a full-on out the side automatic, and so is this one, but it fires extremely hard. This one does not. The original one has M390 steel. This one has a stamp that says M390, but it's not actually real M390 steel. This is more like Parmesan. When you go to sharpen it, the edge just chips and degrades away, and you'll never get as good of an edge. You can't necessarily trust the steel on a clone because they don't have to answer to anybody. Microtech has to answer to the people because of the high prices that they charge. Think about that. Also, clones aren't going to come with the same warranty that the real thing is going to come with. A real Microtech stitch has a lifetime warranty from Microtech, and unless you void that warranty by taking the knife apart or sharpening it irresponsibly, if something fails, which can happen on an automatic, Microtech will fix it for free. Microtech will even sharpen it for free. That's pretty dang cool, but you don't get that on a clone. I'm not saying that the people out there that buy clones are buying terrible knives. If you want to buy a clone, just understand what you're getting yourself into. It's a whole different ballgame. What I'm saying is, don't fall for clones thinking that you're buying the real thing. When I first got into knife collecting, I saw this knife going brand new for somewhere in the $400 to $500 range. And I thought, that's insane. How can anyone buy a knife for that much? And then I went on these Chinese websites that sell clones, DHgate, AliExpress, Alibaba, Amazon. I was like, I can buy this knife for $90. Why would I spend $500 when I can just go buy the clone for under $100? Seems like it can't be that much different. Trust me when I say that it is. This one was actually one that tried to get passed off on me, and I let myself get sucked into it. If you want to see the actual video on what happened with that, I'll go ahead and post it up above. But let's go ahead and move on. Clones not only hurt the industry because it's essentially stealing intellectual property from the original designer, but it also is a cheaper knife that's made more cheaply with less consistent materials, and sometimes can have really, really dangerous flaws. I'm going to wrap it up by talking about the dangerous flaw on this clone. This clone does not stay shut. The tiniest bit of movement on the blade and it flies open. This could be extremely dangerous to carry in the pocket because if you walk wrong, it could open in your pocket, you could stab your leg, you could stab your hand. That's dangerous. An authentic Microtech stitch will not open just by touching the blade. This one will. Number 3, do not learn to sharpen knives on an expensive knife. Now, you might be thinking, well, what is expensive? That's something that's really hard to define because what's expensive to me could not be expensive to you. What's expensive to you could not be expensive to the next guy, so on and so forth. I'll put it to you plainly by talking about a mistake that I made. This is my Microtech ultratech Spartan blade. Now, originally this knife has a double tanto, which is essentially 4 different edges. That's one here, one here, one here, and one here. and they all have to be sharpened separately to keep that perfect tanto. Now, I learned how to sharpen knives on this knife, and you can tell because I rolled that beautiful tanto edge. The tanto edge is no longer there. This is all one single edge on each side. And here's the thing, some people actually prefer that. I ended up rolling over that tanto edge, and because it matched on one side and not on the other, I had to even it out because I'm OCD like that. And now this knife essentially cannot be sold on the secondhand market because many people don't like that design. I don't think that the knife is ruined by any stretch, but I also can't send it back to microtech because this kind of sharpening, this level of sharpening voids the warranty. I'm okay with it. I love this knife, and honestly, I'm not planning on selling it, but if you become a collector, you might, and that's something that you need to consider when you start to learn how to sharpen knives. Instead of learning on a $200-300 knife like this, learn on something like this. This is a $20 knife. You can get it on Amazon, like under 50 bucks, no problem. Learn on a knife like this, a knife that's easy to replace. If you screw it up, whatever. It was cheap, you can replace it. It's readily available. You can't always do that with a more expensive knife. Some of us have that kind of disposable income, some of us don't. But whether you do or don't, learn on a knife that you can replace if you screw it up. Because trust me, sharpening knives is a bit of a learning curve. It looks easy when you watch these videos from other major channels, and then you go try it yourself and you screw up the finish on the blade. And then you turn into one of those people on Reddit that says,
"Oh my gosh, no one here uses their knife because their knives don't look like crap like mine do."
Number 2, do not assume a knife's dimensions solely based on the pictures. To give you an idea, this knife is a full-size knife. In its pictures, it does not look this big. I've got extra large size hands, and I get more than a full-size grip on this knife. The blade on here is almost 4 inches long, and it's a big guy. In the pictures, it looks like a smaller knife. And here's the hard part. You can't necessarily trust the dimensions from manufacturers because sometimes they get it wrong. They're entering in numbers all day long onto their website, trying to make sure that the information people want to look at is there. Just like you, they're also human. So what can you do then if you can't necessarily trust the manufacturer retail website? What do? Do you want to buy it and then measure it yourself? Well, you could, or you could watch content that's readily available on social media where they measure it in person. Maybe they compare it against the knife that you already have, like a Spyderco Para 3. Like major channels, and my channel as well, will do comparisons where we show it against other knives to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. Understand that what might be small for someone else's hand might not be small for your hand. Get a feel for the different knives and look for those comparisons. That can definitely help you from buying a knife and then being like, that's way too big, or finding out that it's just too damn small. I'm more likely to be accepting of a knife based on my personal preferences that's way too big rather than way too small. There's something about buying a knife thinking that it was bigger than it was and then finding out that it was a catfish the whole time. And finally, we need to talk about the number one thing that you should not do when you are getting into knife collecting. Do not let social media form your opinion for you. That is one of the worst things that you could do. And I'll tell you why. The people on the internet, the people on Reddit telling you to
use your knife and destroy that thing, and oh my gosh, those scratches look sexy.
They're not the ones paying for it. They're not the ones carrying it. They're not the ones using it or putting it in a case and just looking at it because they think it's pretty. My point is that everyone has a lot of opinions, and that's fine. That's one of the best things about the knife community. I might come around and say, you know what? I really like this knife. Here's an example. This is a Strider AR 7.5. This knife is designed by Strider and made by Medford. Now, Greg Medford is not one of the most popular people in the knife community right now because he's been saying a lot of less than flattering things about people from China. That's his prerogative. I love this knife, and a lot of people think that I'm an idiot for buying it just because they don't like the message that he puts out there. Now, it's my choice to decide that I like the design and that I like carrying it and that I think that it's great. But there are people out there that will judge you for that. That's fine. They're allowed to have their opinion just like you're allowed to have yours. At the end of the day, when you're spending your money, guess whose opinion matters more? It's not theirs. It's yours. You see, there were so many good knives that I've missed out on because I let others form my opinion for me. And then I got to handle it, I got to try it, and I felt remorse because I missed out, because I let the opinions of others drive my own. It's okay. We all are shaped in some way, shape, or form by the social media that we consume. What I'm saying is just be aware of that. Form your own opinion. Try as many things as you can, because when it comes down to it, this is definitely a hobby that requires spending some money, whether that's a little bit or a lot. It's going to be a journey. Use that journey to form your own opinion, and if people don't agree with you, that's fine, because again, they don't pay your bills. You do. Those were my top 5 don'ts for anyone who's new to collecting knives. In conclusion, knife collecting is a journey. For some, it's a quest to find the perfect knife, and for others, it's about the thrill of the latest and most exclusive. Others have what I like to call Christmas syndrome, which is you just really enjoy getting packages in the mail. You'll find that out. You'll find out if you have Christmas syndrome because you'll be extremely excited to get a knife, and then you finally get it, and the excitement dies off and it's on to the next one. If you have Christmas syndrome, I feel for you. I've been there. Don't have Christmas syndrome. The most important piece of advice that I can give you is to recognize what's driving you to collect knives. Are you a supreme user? Do you use them every day and you just like having a lot of different ones to choose from? Do you appreciate being a member of the knife community and you like that social aspect where you can bond with others over the love of a tool like this knife? Whatever it may be, it's a very personal thing, and the best thing you can do is understand what that is. Guys, that's all I got for you. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, I'm not sure why you're still here, but boo-hoo, there's a button for you too. And if you want to see some of my regular content where I not only review knives, but also rank them to give everyone the context that they need to decide if they should buy a knife or put it in their pocket, make sure you hit subscribe. I'm Rollshambo. I'll catch you on the flip side.